I have a bit of a different video than usual because this is a topic that I kind of started thinking about yesterday, but I shared it with my writing, but I think it warrants a little bit of a bigger audience. So I'm talking about it here. I got to spend a day with the 90-year-old person yesterday. And well, they're not 90 yet. They're gonna be 90 in a few months. And cognitive functions amazing, looks amazing to be honest. The only real like health concern she has is type 2 diabetes. She's lost a lot of mobility because of body aches and things like that. But overall, mind is very fresh. And we got to talking about a bunch of different things, and she told me about her interest in learning computers. And she says that there was a senior center and they have a computer class, but it's a class and there's no one-on-one attention. So every time she has a question, the teacher is helping somebody else. And so she finds it frustrating for her learning experience. So she wants somebody to teach her how to use computers. And now, this is a random fact about me. I happen to be pretty skilled at teaching elderly people computers because I help my mom and dad. My dad was okay, but my mom didn't have any kind of digital literacy. But I basically built up my mom's entire digital literacy all by myself. And through that experience, I learned a lot about the um, how people's minds work when it comes to interfacing with technology they have not never seen before. But I kind of, you know, I think I kind of expected my mom to be like the standard, but it seems that after yesterday's interaction with my new friend, my mom was kind of advanced. She kind of caught on to things faster than the average person who has never interacted with technology before. And now, I told my friend, yeah, I'll totally hook you up with computers, and we're gonna, I'm gonna teach you how to write and read emails, and I'm gonna enroll you in online schools and such. Okay, so the thing is, you can do all of those things with your phone these days too, right? And so my friend was like, "Can you show me how to check my email on my phone? Because I really want to check my email on my phone." And I was like, "Yeah, of course I can do that." Now, this is where I noticed so many problems. Uh, and I think the biggest culprit is gestures. So, older people are used to digital screens that give you visual information, and it gives you specific areas they can interact with specific actions like touching. Fluid motions like gesture and pinching. I think these make sense for the younger generation who can see the screen as a symbolic representation of a graphic element, right? So we understand that when we pull it, so she was using an iPhone, when we pull from the bottom up, it takes you to the home page. We understand that when we swipe like this, we go from one context and then we move to the background one and then like this, right? From our perspective, we get it because we're sort of the younger generation. We learn to see that the screen is not necessarily limited to this here's information presented, here's how you can interface with it with a single click kind of a thing. But the thing is, advancements don't necessarily keep in mind how the elderly people are going to use it. And so, how do you know when there's no physical button? How do you know when there is no user interface that has any notion of a button to tell you, hey, this is something you can touch. This is something you can tap to go to the default screen. And with recently, I know Android is also not doing that, right? But the thing is, Android gives you some sort of a backwards compatibility so that here's my phone screen, but there is a mode I can use to enable the old way where there is something to tap because I also don't like using gestures to navigate, right? So, even that aside, what's a home screen to the elderly people? There's no UI explaining what the home screen notion is. when you click into a folder accidentally, it's been a while since the iOS, but back in the days, when you press the home button, it took you to the fucking home screen. But now, if you click into a folder and then you open an app, when you go swipe up, you are taken back to the folder instead of the home. So when you don't have this fundamental idea about the home screen and the nesting nature of folders and such, how are they going to understand how to use this? And you know how when you go swipe to the left, you get a search bar? It's you turn on the phone and then you do one thing that you don't understand, and then now your phone looks completely different. And you have no idea what your default state of the phone needs to be like. Because nobody sits down to get people to understanding these things. And part of it, I think, I completely understand how frustrating it is to talk to your parents and other, family members about technology, because they get frustrated at you, you get frustrated at them. Though my mom and dad are great with computers, but I learned the hard way, right? Because I yelled at them, they yelled at me, and then through that, I got to be like, wow, yelling at them isn't really going to help them understand. I just need to slow down, and I need to repeat, I need to be able to be mentally equipped to potentially repeat 1,000 times until they get it. And so, with the lack of a system that provides phone like this, education like this, and now that's just the home interface, right? So I set up email for my friend, and then I told her how to use it. But you see, she wanted to watch YouTube, but go on YouTube and be able to kind of hey, I want to use YouTube so that I can save videos so I can watch them later. But when you don't know, how is a 90-year-old person, especially a Spanish native, Mexican person, what the fuck is a playlist? And how do you manage a playlist? So all these terms that are so normal to the younger generation, I think there is a severe lack of bridging the gap between the digital literate people and the digital illiterate people, and the gap is widening and widening. And so, you know how in the past, when you click YouTube, the icon here, it used to take you to the homepage of the app, right, so to speak. But now, there's this mini tab here, like gaming, podcasts, like satire, Tekken 8, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So the thing is, if an elderly person mistakenly clicks one of these, so from her perspective, she wants to go back to the home page that she's used to seeing. So this is the right thing to do. But it doesn't work because they added this new smaller tab. And if you've interacted with older people, you know how bad their eyesights are. How are you going to navigate around these small navigations? Moreover, so you have this shorts, right? And so she wants to save a short. These 3 buttons, from an elderly person's perspective, how the fuck are you supposed to understand what these 3 buttons are? Yeah, from our perspective, we understand the accordion menu and the 3-dot hamburger layout, whatever. But it makes very little graphic sense to elderly people, and I don't think we do a good enough job at bridging that gap again. And technology companies, they always introduce these new strange ways of developing the UI, because for stakeholder value, they always need to be doing something new for just to say that we've improved something or changed something up. And it leaves more and more people confused and behind because they provide no way for backwards compatibility into the UI. right? So yeah, there are some elements I can keep, like my home button and things like the soft buttons. But thing is, what about the overall behavior of how a user interface used to work? There's no way to go back. You have to kind of be force fed into what the companies are making the design decisions by. And now, after I came back home, I noticed maybe this is why the older generation tends to lean a certain, political way. Because even in Korea, older people tend to be watching more TV and more conservative TV. And I think that something similar is happening in America as well. So I took a look at so basically my hypothesis is because computers and phones are so frustrating to use, they want to revert back to something that makes sense to them. And then TV. TV is simple. You just turn it on and then you see what you like to see. But even with that, right? I looked at some news sites, keeping in mind that it will be, consumed by older people. So Fox News, old elderly people's favorite, right? But when you look here, you notice that there is a very small percentage of the modern graphics components, like the three dots. They have it here, but it's prefaced with more. And you see how in the user interface here, there are pictures, but also there are these small kind of like, text in the thumbnail. This is something I observed from working with elderly people yesterday. They like to read what's on screen. And keeping into account that they have likely large fonts for their eyes, you can see how this is a lot easier on the eyes. It makes sense. Everything is accompanied by a picture. And so you can really kind of like, this isn't overwhelming. Maybe it is, but now I'm gonna go to some other news sites. So this is MSNBC, right? Here's what it looks like when it's. You can see how the difference in the author here, and there's just from the elderly's perspective, there are so many text bubbles to read, and this kind of pop up will not get the latest these things. Every time these types of pop-ups come up, elderly people have to read it to understand. We know to click X and maybe later allow, but they have to read everything, which significantly slows down their speed in accessing things. And my least favorite, the 3 line here, right? Very frustrating. There's no more. There's nothing indicating what the 3 lines are. So from the elderly's perspective, how are you supposed to understand that? CNN. I went to CNN, but why do I see the ad first? Because Fox News has ads, but it tells you it's Fox News first, and then it serves you the ads. But I'm going to CNN, but am I at BJJ Fanatics or am I at CNN? Again, when you increase the font, look at the amount of text. Same with CBS News. And again, the 3 dots, that doesn't explain what the 3 dots are. So I think in general, digital literacy for the elderly people is something that is really missing in society right now. And I know that there are senior centers and community work. I know there are programs and educations like this, but I think it really starts at the home level. But at the home level, I firsthand know how frustrating it is to work with your parents and grandparents about technology. So I think what I can best propose at the moment is how the younger children and the younger members of the family can have a little bit of composure and have a little bit of inner peace to be able to teach the elderly people so that they can gain digital literacy and they can learn digital literacy from us in a safe home environment without us yelling at them and without it turning into a big fight. So that's sort of the homework that I have in my mind, how to develop programs to help foster more digital literacy, especially in the elderly community.